I don't think I've ever, 22 years of business ownership in hospo, I don't think I've ever experienced um, like the stress and the impact that those few days had on us and our business. It was unbelievable.
This week on Dirty Linen, well, we just have to talk about what's going on in Melbourne. It wasn't the plan, but it seems like things just don't go to plan this year, or for the last year anyway. I'm going to chat to Lisa Slaughter. She is a hospitality pro in Melbourne, and she owns Ripponlea Food Wine and Mocha Jo's in Glen, Waverley, with Christophides, who's been on this podcast once before. Lisa, we talked to you during lockdown. Hello.
Hi, how you going? Thanks for having me, Dani.
It's a pleasure to talk to you. And we certainly are talking at an interesting juncture. Lockdown number 3 for Melbourne, not where any of us wanted to be. Look, honestly, I have to say it came at me as a complete surprise. I did not think it was going to happen. Tell us how it's going for you.
Well, it's so funny you say that because I feel like that was the biggest challenge this time, was just the last minute kind of scramble of it all. And it was difficult. Like on Friday, when we kind of found out, we just sort of started to hear little rumours and things throughout the morning on Friday. And to be honest, I was a bit like, surely not, it doesn't seem like the numbers are that bad. And, like, like how could they sort of shut us down at such low numbers and what have you? So, but anyway, when it all got announced, I went into a little bit of a shock myself. I was just thrown for a six. And, the most difficult thing, I guess, as a business owner is, as the leader of a group of kind of 60 staff members, you have to manage everyone's anxiousness. And, I felt really responsible for all of that. Meanwhile, I'm in my own head going, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with this again? So, yeah, it was that sort of shock of it all was really challenging, very challenging. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I heard those rumours on Friday morning as well, and I just thought, no, we've got it under control. Like this can't be. And I think, as we all know, this was shaping up to be such a massive weekend for hospitality, with Valentine's Day, for a lot of restaurants celebrating Lunar New Year. We had people at the tennis, and Melbourne, felt like it was at a pretty good place. Obviously still enormous challenges, with, still restrictions and, work limits in offices, really restricting a lot of areas. But how would you say things had been going up to this new lockdown?
Well, we had a little bit of a slow start to January. I think a lot of people took a while to come back from regional, travel and what have you. And I must admit, since school went back, so the last couple of weeks, I felt like things were just nicely back to, a bit of normality with our consistency of numbers and things like that. But this weekend was, definitely going to be a ripper. The weather was perfect. We had at Ripponlea, we close on Sundays, so we had the extra night of trade all fully booked out. So I was excited to, do some really good numbers this week there. And yeah, it was just, so disappointing. I literally walked into the restaurant about 1:30, just after the announcement, and suppliers were, coming in with boxes of fresh seafood and fresh pasta deliveries. And I'm just looking at this whole situation. All the staff are just looking to me going, okay, what do we do now? And I'm like, all I wanted to do was just get in my car and drive to somewhere far from here. So it was, it was pretty difficult. But yeah, like it just seems to be, one of those things now. The reality of it is we just have to be ready for anything, I guess. And that's the bit that I find really exhausting because, I really took for granted the consistency of trade and consistency of, numbers and just consistency of life, really. You just sort of, just took it all for granted. And now it's like this sort of chaos that comes in. It's like a little tornado and throws you into a spin, and you either shut your doors and kind of go into sleep mode and fall further behind, or you hustle hard, and the hustling part of it is exhausting.
Mm.
So that's the bit that I have struggled with this weekend particularly. And I sort of have, like, we get creative and we think outside the box, and I've actually quite enjoyed some of the different ways of doing things over the last year. But yeah, this weekend was definitely, pushed me into a different space of being challenged mentally, definitely.
I think, people in Melbourne, our reserves are pretty low. And
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah, I think
agree.
for myself, I went away on holidays for 2 weeks in January, and it was really only when I came back in the middle of the month that I actually started to feel really exhausted from the past year. It was almost like it was that turning off that just let everything settle in me, and I sort of realized some of the impacts. And just the last couple of weeks with the kids back at school and my husband going back to work a little bit, it just, as you said, I was starting to feel like we were in normal rhythms, and you could just about trust things again. And then this really pulls the rug out, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's I don't know. It was just, yeah. And it's hard when you kind of are in a position of, like I said before, leadership, and not just, when you're the decision maker, and you're the one that has to take responsibility for the whole thing and just make decisions for, you know, these beautiful, like, group of staff that we've got working for us, that I feel so responsible for, and committed to, and they're committed to you, and they're just like looking up to you, like, vulnerable children. And it's really challenging. You just got to kind of, I worked a really long day on Friday, and I ended up, I don't normally work on the floor, but I ended up staying through Friday night because I just didn't want to leave them. We hadn't really we just sort of, I knew that I had to get them together and, have a good kind of brief about it. But it was so chaotic in the afternoon. We had so many phone calls and, DMs and emails, and people just not knowing, what to do and where to go, and cancellations, and people ringing up trying to get in Friday night. And, it was just like the whole management side of it was really difficult. And then I just jumped on the food pass. We had the busiest shift on Friday night that I think we've had in a year. And, that's saying something. Everyone just wanted to cut. We had so many walk ins, and we were just sort of trying to manage it. And I didn't want to leave because I knew at the end of the shift, my chef and my restaurant manager would just we were just literally walking past each other, not looking, not saying anything, and I just said, leave it for now, let's get through the shift and we'll sit down later. And that's what we did. And, I just said to them both, I felt really bad for the situation that we're in, because I knew that, what had to happen over the weekend to change there was no way I wanted to just shut and watch all this stock go to waste and what have you. So we had to recreate, and yeah, that very quickly, and that's what we did. So it's been a big couple of days.
Can you talk me through that process? You said when you heard the announcement on Friday and you walked in, and you had these competing urges. One, to look after your staff, and two, just to crawl into a ball and hide. What happened next? Like, how did you sort of flip into action mode?
Well, to be honest, the first thing I did when we at Ripponlea, we've been lucky to have we started in the very first lockdown last year doing we put a menu online of ready to finish off at home. So we do these beautiful dinner boxes that you take home, and everything's packaged ready to finish off, sort of Providore style, I guess. And we did that all year, and it was very successfully, mind you. And we've still kept it live, but we haven't had, we get a random order every now and then, so we weren't equipped with it. So the first thing I thought of is, because we created a Valentine's Day menu that wasn't from our normal menu, so chef had kind of all different stock coming in for that. So I quickly spoke to her and said, can we recreate this to a boxed up version? We changed a couple of things, like obviously the oysters and things like that. And the first thing I did was send a message to every booking that we had on the books for Sunday, just a personal text message just saying we'd love to still have the opportunity to, prepare dinner for you. It'll be our, boxed version kind of thing. And if you'd like to take us up on it, just let me know kind of your choice from the menu. And we had about 50%, I think, kind of, or maybe not quite that, maybe 30% kind of take us up on that. And then that was the first thing I did Friday, and I really kind of didn't really do too much because we had to concentrate on service and just spoke to my girl that does our socials and said just throw it out there that we've got our online boxes and whatever for this weekend. So and at the end of the night we put our Valentine's Day box online as well. But what the things that I didn't think about were we didn't have enough packaging supplies, and everything has to be boxed, and we just weren't prepared for any of that. So logistically it was a little bit of a nightmare trying to make it work, but we got there. We had to sell out yesterday afternoon purely because we didn't have enough packaging to get us through. But my chef sent me a message this afternoon saying she was happy because the fridge was nearly empty. So we
That is
sold enough
amazing.
yeah,
Wow.
we sold enough to kind of get rid of, well, and plus, having the busy night Friday night helped. And, we're a small business there, so it's not like we have mountains of, I feel for these businesses that sell out, hundreds of people and, have special events and things like that. So yeah, we did okay to kind of get through it. But now I'm like, after this weekend, my takeaway is I need to prepare a bit of a checklist for next time, so that because there's a lot of logistics and it's all in my head. But it'd be good to have something to sort of, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3, like just to follow, so you don't have to think about it too much.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I did wonder about the packaging because, it's one thing to flip the food to take away, but of course you've got to have stuff to put it in. And it's not just, when you think about putting food on a plate, it's not necessarily the same in terms of the portioning that you put in a container. Like there's so much to think
We
about.
had to do instructions, and like we just, like, most of the packaging places are open Monday to Friday, and this was all Friday afternoon. It was just crazy. And we do little take home cocktails, and we didn't have labels ready to go. We didn't have enough bottles, and so we're constantly watching the sales online, making sure that we weren't going to oversell ourselves. But it was, I'm sort of proud of how we managed it. And Mocha Jo's is a completely different kind of scenario, being a daytime cafe. It's very busy and fast paced. We do high turnover there. And to be honest, it's just sad watching the way that business goes when we have to close our doors. It's heartbreaking.
Why is it different? What breaks your heart there?
Oh, because I just think, we can still sell a beautiful dinner box for $150, and, you don't have to sell too many of them to kind of cover yourself. And whereas when you're selling $4 takeaway coffees and not much else, a muffin or a croissant, we've got our Uber Eats and our online, but not, I don't know. I don't think, like, because we have a big breakfast trade out there, so it's like you're not going to really sell many scrambled eggs in a box, are you? I wouldn't love that.
It's a
You know
tricky
what I mean?
one.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a tricky one. So the turnover just goes from, normal turnover to like literally nothing. Like on a normal weekend, busy day, we could do $10,000 turnover, and we'd be lucky to do 1,200 or $1,000 on a weekend takeaway day. And it's just like it doesn't cover itself. It's just, but you just got to keep we just need to, it's got to keep our doors open and just keep trying to stay positive and keep engaging with our customers. And we don't want them to have the opportunity to go somewhere else to get a coffee. They might enjoy it more than ours and we lose them forever. Like, you just got to kind of do whatever it takes out there, and that business has really copped it hard in the last year. It's been, that one's really been difficult to watch.
Well, I think, one of the things that happened at Mocha Jo's is that a case visited and got a takeaway coffee. So I remember seeing Mocha Jo's on one of the Department of Health lists of where a case had visited, and I messaged Christo and said, "Oh shit, sorry mate, sorry to hear it." And that was the first he'd heard about it. So I believe that the person who was subsequently tested positive to coronavirus had just come and got a takeaway coffee. And this is that outbreak around, it was the Black Rock outbreak, wasn't it? It was around that
30th
time.
of December.
Yeah. So tell me
Yeah.
about that, like the impact that has on a business.
Oh, how long have you got, Dani? How long have we got to chat about this? I'm like, oh, that was absolutely mind blowing. We literally, I don't think I've ever, 22 years of business ownership in hospo, I don't think I've ever experienced um, the stress and the impact that those few days had on us and our business. It was unbelievable. We basically, I mean, the most difficult thing was, like you said, not finding out through DHHS, just finding out through the media, really. So we were, not on the front foot from the start, and weren't able to manage any messaging because we didn't know what our situation was. We didn't know, we weren't actually sure what had happened and what our exposure was. And so
That's
managing,
terrible.
it was terrible trying to manage that with, first of all, our group of staff, all just like so unsettling for everybody. And then again, the customers, and being a high turnover venue, like I said, it's, we had hundreds of people contacting us, just asking, I was here at this time, and do I need to do, and we're like, you know what, we don't even know what's what at the moment. So the first kind of, we found out about 6-7 o'clock at night on the 30th of December, and we spoke to DHS at lunchtime the next day for the first time. And
Wow.
that was when we actually got the information that it was only a takeaway customer, and that, we were asking them, well, what do we have to do? And they said, well, not much, just make sure you've cleaned your venue. No, your staff don't all have to get tested. And well, it's a bit late now because we had already decided to close and deep clean and allow all the staff to get tested. And we closed for a couple of days. We were planning to close on New Year's Day anyway. So we reopened on the 2nd of January, but we were lucky to have probably 50 or 60 customers as opposed to 400 or 500. So it hit us really hard for the full 2 weeks that we were on the list for. And I think it was difficult because we were named first, and it was, in previous, like, previous sort of waves of, people being tested positive, I don't remember them really specifically honing in on venue names. Like, I remember suburbs and because the contact tracing wasn't kind of, where it should have been. So my biggest issue with what we faced was, I don't understand why DHHS wouldn't contact us for our contact tracing list and say, give me your list for, the people that have registered in your business between these hours on that date. And then they contact all those people directly and say, this is what you need to do. But instead, it was just, they put our name up on a list, never asked for our contact tracing, and anyone that had been in our shop since the date that, the positive person was, all just basically thought they were going to have coronavirus. So it was just, all these people were contacting us.
Yeah. Wow. That's just so hard.
It was so hard. And, not to mention all the staff that, were like just at home stressing till they got their results for a day or two, and all their families were getting tested, and anyone they'd been, and it was just like this whole, oh, it was insane, but yeah, it smashed our business, to be honest. But we tried our best with just putting messages out there, and we've got a good strong brand in the community, so that obviously helps. And it did take a little bit of time, I guess. Psychologically, people, I was worried we were going to be branded as the COVID cafe forever, but um, eventually kind of it slowly built. It's not back to where it was yet. But I just think we had a couple of other cases be listed in the, or not cases, but businesses that these in this wave now in the local area that these people have visited go up last week, like a bank and somewhere else in Glen Waverley, yeah. And then that's been quieter those couple of days. We noticed there was no one in the street and stuff. So being a heavily populated Chinese area as well, I think they just get so nervous about it, and people just sort of hibernate very quickly in that area. Yeah, so I don't look, to be honest, I don't know the future of that business and how it's going to look. Well, in the next 6 to 12 months, who knows with any business, but beyond that, it's, yeah, I don't really know.
Wow. I mean, Glen Waverley has been absolutely smashed because it was really one of the first neighborhoods that emptied out, this time last year or even earlier, wasn't it? So it was like, it was really straight from the fires to coronavirus for Glen Waverley. Chinese New Year 2020 was a write-off.
Exactly. Yeah, the first Victorian positive case was, yeah, in Glen Waverley. Yeah.
Yeah. It
Hmm.
really totally sucks. I mean, from my point of view, I feel like a hospitality business that has someone visit them, like of course it's not their fault. And then the restaurants and cafes that have got all their contact collection up to scratch, I feel like they're the COVID heroes, really, because it's through that data, or as we're told, it's that data that really helps to keep the community safe. And I can only assume that maybe, do you think it's because that person only came for takeaway that they felt like your contact collection wasn't really to the point? But then if that's the case, then why put it on an alert list at all?
Exactly. Like, in their words, our risk level was negligible, and I'm just like, oh gosh, like, if only we and the media could have helped control that message. Like, these small businesses, especially in hospitality, is so vulnerable, and to have your name kind of smashed around like that, like, it was just devastating. It really was. I was just like, I literally, after 24 hours of media management and, everything else, I jumped in the car and drove to Phillip Island to be with my family. I was just like, I'll handle whatever I can from the phone, but I just had to get away from it all. It was just insane, so intense, really intense.
Wow, Lisa. I mean, it's just, you've been carrying a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. We definitely have. And, that's the difficult thing, just always trying to stay positive and, just keep up the hustle. It's very taxing, and you just sort of, even personally, like, for we do our best in business, and, I'm lucky I've got a superstar business partner, and we support each other a lot. Like, I said to him last week, I said thank you for something, and he's like, "Why are you thanking me for it? It's my business too." And I'm like, I'm like, we like, exactly why I need to thank you, because could you imagine going through this shit show by yourself? It was just like, I just can't imagine, having to. There are lots of people that do it, but yeah, it's not me or him, I don't think. But just personally, what we've been through, we've him and I have lived off JobKeeper for the last 12 months. Literally, we've just buckled down on, tried to leave every dollar in the business that we could to try and protect the financial stability of the businesses. And I've sort of like had little glimpses of light where I've been like, okay, the end of this month we're going to start pulling some more money out, and then something hits us, and I'm like, okay, we might wait till next month. And then, like you said, how the last few weeks been, that I was back in that space again. All right, another, And the businesses are healthy financially because we have protected them and we've really buckled down. And, one thing I've learnt well, not learnt, but, the big positive, I guess, that's come out of this past 12 months of working the way we have has been we are so much more closely connected with our businesses because we've just gone into like super protective mode where you don't want to you just don't you want to have one foot out the door and one in the whole time, like, whereas previously it's like fair, when you've got that consistency that I was talking about earlier, or that kind of surety of trade and things like that, it's like it just ticks away and you get your same, you just sort of don't really think too much about it. But being connected more to the business comes with a lot of positives, and more connected to our team, and just knowing more about our business, learning more about it. And we've I spend a lot of my time managing our finances, and just even our costs, and or every single cost line on our P&L I have scrutinized in the last 12 months, and I've never done that. So it'll be a healthier business moving forward. But when is that and how does that look? That's the difficult bit that kind of sits in my mind, and I'm like, oh God, it's the unknown. And the unknown for us personally, financially and stuff like that, that's the bit that's challenging. You can only go day by day for so long, right? You kind of want a little bit of security and to feel a little bit settled at some point.
Well, especially when you've got people who are relying on you. And I mean, the reason that I reached out to have this chat to you, Lisa, is that I saw the photo of your staff on the Ripponlea Food and Wine Instagram. And I mean, your photo was, it was thanking the staff for being there and being awesome. But it's a really beautiful team shot, and you can see that there's a really beautiful connection there, but you can also see the way that they look towards you and to Christo for that leadership. And as much as that makes, I'm sure that it feels great to be looked after by that team in the restaurant, it also it's a lot for you guys to take on, especially through such enormous challenges, isn't it?
It's so true. We had a customer and a friend, like a personal friend, when we got hit during the exposure site period at the end of the year, just first week of Jan, he called up the restaurant and spoke to the staff and said that he wanted to donate $1,000 towards our staff, pay it forward, use it however they like.
Aww.
And it was just the most beautiful gesture. We were just blown away. And so our manager, what should we do with it? And I'm like, well, it's yours. I guess that's up to you. And he said, well, I know we weren't planning on having a Christmas party this year, but I think it'd be really nice to get all the team together, and we can go to a park if it's going to be better, easier and cheaper. And I spoke to Christo, and I'm like, I think it'll be a really good idea to do that this year, because they've all worked so hard and have just, head down, bum up kind of thing. And it'll be nice to get them all together. And the two restaurants, we don't get together very often either. So we agreed to match it. So we put another $1,000. So we had $2,000. And we had it last Sunday it was. And so this is probably the first year where we really hadn't planned anything. And just because we've just haven't had a chance, really. We've just been, copying one thing after the other. And so we went Sunday night, and the whole team from both shops came, and it was, honestly, probably the most beautiful function or get together that I've experienced in all my time as, business owner of Mocha Jo's, which is 20 years. And the camaraderie and the connection in the room, it was just beautiful. And I was like, this is all a result of what we have been through. And both our managers spoke so beautifully about Christo and myself. And, they gave out little awards to all their team, and it was just amazing. So it was funny you said that about that shot, because that was that night, the Ripponlea,
Wow.
that was that night that we took it. And I was just looking around the room and I was like, people were just smiling and happy and laughing, at like hugging each other. I took so many photos of, and I've got photos of like probably 30 photos of, them all just like hugging, and it was just so, so good. And, just it makes you think that that sort of stuff is, it's very rewarding, because you just think, wow, we've been a really nice, beautiful outlet for a lot of them in the last 12 months too. And, I work closer with the team at Ripponlea, and Christo spends more time at Mocha Jo's, but, even coming into Ripponlea during hardcore lockdowns and being able to put together the dinner boxes, the team are just like, if they didn't have that, their lives would have been very, very different through that kind of period. So, everyone was working with a smile on their face, because it was their one chance to get out of their house. And, they felt very, very lucky to have a job like that. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was really nice. And, I'm so glad we did it, because they do deserve to be rewarded. And, I've taken for granted up until now how much I really need to value and appreciate our team. I have literally taken it for granted, and I can't believe that it's taken me this long, as a business owner, to realize that. It's interesting.
Wow. I'm so glad that you did that party last
Same,
weekend.
same.
Oh
Yeah,
my God. I'm crying as you're talking about it. Like, it's so moving. And,
yeah, it was really good.
what a fortuitous thing, and what a
Hmm.
great customer to kick that off with
I know, I
their
know. It
donation. That's really amazing.
was beautiful.
Wow, Lisa, look, I feel like you've obviously learnt a lot through this process, but I feel like surely the learning time is done and we can just get back to a bit of living.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I just like, yeah, hats off to you, and well done on, yeah, just putting energy into yet another lockdown. I know that we are united in hoping that it's over within the 5 days and that you're back to trade ASAP, welcoming customers into your great businesses. But yeah, thank you so much for coming along to have a chat today.
Pleasure. Thanks, Dani. It was really good to chat.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about. We spend a week thrashing around each issue, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.